Oh man, what's really good though, family tree? Let me know that you guys are up in the building with me by simply hitting the like button down below. And as well, it's just dropping me a few comments with inside of the comment section. Let me know that yeah, everybody is here right now. And please do share the link, share the link, share the link as crazy as possible. I actually want to get a lot of you guys involved, right? You know how I'm gonna do it. This is the evening wind down time for myself. So I really want to get a lot of you guys involved with the dialogue, involved with the discussion. You know, there might even be a debate because I'm pretty sure we're gonna have such, wide stretching views. All right. So earlier on, I did a video actually, which is surrounding this particular topic. I know the title is a bit changed up a little bit. Title says here, health checks for children as young as 4 in schools discussion. Okay, so a lot of people were talking in the comment section below on the other live stream we did earlier on. So again, if you haven't seen that live stream we did earlier on, please do check it out. And if you haven't, you didn't get a notification, please go down below, hit the bell icon to get notifications for the shows. Okay, make sure you do that. I know a lot of you guys aren't receiving notifications to say that we're live on air. So I need you guys to literally be my PR. I need you guys to share the link, share the link, share the link like crazy. A lot of the videos are being demonetized for various different reasons. So that means when it gets demonetized, they usually put like it seems that they're putting restrictions where the video isn't being pushed as much as other videos from other channels. So please, we're doing like real crucial discussions. In the last few videos, they've all tried to, like, something is going on. I'm not too sure. I'm gonna have to find out. Even before I upload the video, I see the little monetization button. Click there to let me know like there's something wrong. There's something wrong. I'm not too sure what it is. We'll find out and we'll see how we can battle that. But please make sure you hit the like button, share the link, share everything with everybody, and get involved with the conversation. I am going to start it momentarily, so I will share the link to you guys momentarily. Salute to Joe Brown all the way in America. Oh man. All right, I see you guys. So yeah, we're definitely going to get involved in a hot second. So earlier on, I spoke about zombie killers, and I said zombie killers set to be cured. As Sajid Javid courageously announces violence should be treated as a contagious disease. This comes in the wake of soaring knife crime in the country's capital, with more than 100. Okay, let me repeat that. Remember, at the beginning of the year, we did loads of videos on this. More than 100 murders in London so far this year, with a third of those victims aged between 16 and 24. Right. I know I played some videos for you guys to get you guys to see what's going on, what's actually going on. I'm not too sure if I'm able to play any videos today. I'll have to come back on you for that one to see if I can get any videos, any video footage. Well, please go back and check the last video that we did. It's all in there. Okay, it's all in there. All right. And then recently, there's also studies linking school exclusions to the rise in gang crime. Okay. And today's headline read mental health check for all pupils. And let me just show you guys the article. Pardon me. Let me show you guys the article. Yeah, let's see. Right over, nope, over here. Okay, so here is the article from the Daily Mail. It says here, mental health checks for all pupils. Okay, the Daily Mail reports that pupils in both primary and secondary school will receive routine mental health checks as part of a 1.9 billion plan for mental health services in schools. The paper says teachers will be trained to carry out well-being assessments at a time when 1 in 10 children are now deemed to have a diagnosable mental health condition. Okay, so this is what's currently happening. I want to have a discussion on this. I want to know if this is a good thing, if this is a bad thing. What are the problems that may incur? You know, we see there's a lot of problems with mental health and pharmaceutical companies in America and other places as well. So, you know, I've already seen that these issues or these potential problems have been highlighted already. So please, we want to get you guys in to discuss. Also, you know, we've also shown you guys the startling figures that half of all mental illnesses begins by the age of 14. You know what? Let me actually do this. Let me actually get all of the statistics up for you guys, so you guys can go ahead and do your own research as well. Okay. So again, this is on the Daily Star right now. Okay, on the Daily Star, and it says, if we go to it, okay, down here, it says, yeah, half of all mental illnesses begins by the age of 14. Okay. Meanwhile, 1 in 10 children aged 5 to 16 have a diagnosable condition. Depression is the third leading cause of mental illness in young people. Okay. Depression. 3/4 of all mental health problems are established by the age of 24. Okay, by the age of 24. So it seems as though that they're striking just right. They're intervening when the time is needed. They're getting into the school system to actually review the children, to see how they're doing, to see, you know, about their mental health. You know, are they coping or not? And I think it's a good idea, because it can literally you know, be a lifesaver and a life changer. Okay, to literally give those children the help that they need. A lot of the children today, in my personal opinion, are suffering. Okay, they're suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome. They're suffering from anxiety. They're suffering from depression. There might be a whole other list of mental illnesses that children are suffering in silence, especially in the Black and minority ethnics community. It is very much so a taboo. It's a taboo, and you know, usually if you're, you know, from an African household, they'll send you into church for that deliverance. Okay, that is all they know. Or if you come from an Asian, maybe Muslim background, you may be going to the imam to get some ruqyah done on you. Okay, like that is the way that they think of solving the problem. Or they might try to beat it out of you or lock you in a room. So I'm being real. Like, I know this might sound like strange to a lot of people, weird to a lot of people, but this is actually a reality for a lot of you know, Blacks and minority ethnics that's residing in this country. Okay, it's also a major taboo inside of you know, mainstream, you know, English culture as well. It might be a taboo, but it's quite normal and acceptative, something like that anyway, in comparison to other ethnicities. So it also continues to say that suicide is the biggest killer of young people in the UK. Suicide is the leading cause of death among men and women aged 20 to 34. Okay, I don't know if I spoke, or if you guys remember, I spoke about one of my friends, you know, that's literally falls into that age category there. Might be 29 even. He took his, no, 28, 29. Yeah, he took his life last year. You know, he took his life last year. And I literally saw him a couple days before that, you know, couple days before. You would think that everything is fine with him. You know, he's doing his acting. He had a major video that had come out, or movie that had come out. You would just think everything is normal with this person, but you don't know what's going on behind closed doors, how much a person is actually suffering. It says here, in addition, suicide is the second leading cause of death among 15-year-olds. In fact, statistics from the Office of National Statistics show the number of young suicides is increasing. In 2015, 1,660 young people under the age of 35 took their own lives, which was 103 more than in 2014. Okay, others people have spoken about the drug abuse as well. Yeah, drug abuse comes almost hand in hand. Yeah, drug abuse comes almost hand in hand with mental illnesses as well. So there's so much that we can be speaking on. So much. It says, yeah, drugs are the most common form of, no, something else. But yeah, there's so much more that we can actually be speaking on as well. And I'm linking this into, you know, could this possibly be a good or crucial intervention that's needed, all right, that can possibly curb the level of violence that we're seeing in our community, can curb the level of gang crime and knife crime that we see plaguing the London streets and Scotland, everywhere. To be honest with you, we see this form of violence plaguing us. And I personally think that, you know, if you really want to solve any problem, right, it's always to go to the root and the cause of that problem, right? And most of these problems actually originate within inside of our being, within inside of our psyche, within inside of our mind, right? There is where it actually lies. If we can solve ourselves internally, everything else in our lives would actually be in level and be in check. So let me actually get you guys involved, all right, with the conversation. Let me get you guys involved with the conversation right now, because I want to relax. But yeah, all right. So here we go. Here is the link. So anytime you lot are ready, please come in. All right. So I'm gonna run through my throat. It says here, scientifically, are drugs a cause or a consequence or both? Yeah, it could be technically both. But drugs tend to be a consequence, okay? Majority time, it tends to be a consequence of, you know, the sufferings that's going inside of a person, or their inability to fit in, or their inability to close off those feelings, and they're looking for an outlet. They're looking for something to numb them or dampen those sensations. And that's the only way some people can actually fall asleep at night, with the use of some form of drug, whether it's alcohol or whether it is some other you know, drug. It could be marijuana, it could be any other type of drug. Let's quickly go through. Jedi and Respect are suffering from victimity. All right, says Phil Mitchell. Do you really trust the same people indoctrinating your children to assess mental health? Ooh, that's kind of big right there, man. Like, Jedi's up in the building. See Scattered Minds up in the building. Well, Kalam. Yeah, buddy. All right. So how do you guys join? Again, the link has been sent out, right? Okay. My throat. I'm waiting for you guys to come on, you know. Trust me, I'm mad tired, you know. So if I can get you guys on quickly, otherwise I'll be shutting down early, fam. So please jump on as soon as possible. Mental health is an individual personal ability function. Naeem is mocking people with mental disabilities. Okay. So what if a child wants to change gender? Will we carry on pretending it can't ever be due to mental health illness? See, I really wanted, there was, you know, I haven't seen any of the Speakers Corner videos, but I was speaking to somebody who was transgender that may have actually come down to Speakers Corner. And, you know, I would really love to hear from the transgender community and let us know their story, right? For me, the only way that you can truly understand something is by going to the source and listening to them. Someone show love. All is, I said is Kalam is not a professor. Okay. Afroman Raf says, send me a link on Messenger. All right. Quickly message me on Facebook and I'll get it sent over to you. Mental illness is normal response to a sick society. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of big still. That's kind of big. Right. All right. I was, you know what? It's crazy. I was just thinking about Melanated Goddess. And as soon as I just double checked here, she appeared. Melanated Goddess, Queen. I know you wanted to get involved with this topic, so please jump in and talk to me.
Peace, brother Kalam, and to everyone. I missed the beginning part of the show. I just saw the title and kind of hopped on. So I'm not
Okay.
sure if you
Link
reviewed
has been sent.
the type of mental health that
Come
they're
on,
going to
fam. Don't
actually
let the show
implement.
drag now. Oh, you're speaking?
Yeah, can you
Oh,
hear
can
me?
you hear me? Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, I had it on mute.
Okay, I said
Okay,
that I
I
missed
said that I missed
the beginning part of the show, so I didn't hear if you kind of went over like the types of mental health services they would provide to the students and like what that actual screening would look like and um, I'm over here in the States, so I don't really know what's currently in place in the UK as far as what type of mental health services they have in the schools. But I would say it's definitely needed. Mental health.
Sorry, indeed, indeed. I'm gonna get all of the information up. Just bear with me. Um,
Sure.
what we do have, okay, what we do have, it says that teachers will be trained to carry out well-being assessments at primary and secondary schools to spot potential issues among children as young as 4. Mental health problems in young people have increased. Yeah, so that's about it so far. Um, that's as much information I've got here so far, but I do know that there is more that's actually going on. There will be mental health practitioners that will be inside of the schools as well. Um, there will be regular or routine checkups as well. I'm going to just quickly find the article so I can give more information.
Okay. That I just think that the young people, you can never have overkill when it comes to providing that type of support. I don't think that there's such a thing as having like overkill because our youth are I forgot what the term is, but it's kind of like secondary trauma. They experience secondary trauma all the time, so they may not have been a victim of a shooting or a stabbing themselves, but just happen to know someone who experienced that, to hear gunshots in their community, or to watch on their phones over and over people that look like them and look like their family members just being hurt. That in itself is traumatization, and for society to feel like it does not or will not have an effect, well, I think the way that society is today just demonstrates that it does have an effect. Like it just does. So I think that's a good thing. I myself am a mental health practitioner in the school system. That's what I do for a living, and I work in a high school. We have 1,200 students, and there are uh, 5 of us in the building, and it still doesn't even feel like it's enough.
Wow. So, when it comes to a well-being assessment, what does that exactly look like?
You got me, brother. I mean, there's a program that I kind of helped this one sister out, like my team. We helped her out where she did like a classroom presentation in the health class. So she did it like every period. Um, she did it in the high school level, in the health class, and then afterwards we teamed up and she gave each of them a questionnaire, and it basically was questions like, I sometimes think of hurting myself. I sometimes don't find meaning in life, or I prefer to be alone more than with other people, or kids make fun of me, or and it was these questions, and they would say yes or no, and um, after they completed it, they met with one of us one to one. Now, um, we did I don't even think we completed an entire grade, but it took forever for us to meet with all of those students one to one just to score it. And then if they got a certain score, then they would be recognized to receive further services depending on their scores.
Okay, okay. And you know, I think a lot of the concerns I've heard so far is to do with, if the students are found to have, certain mental illnesses, what is the probability that they will be given drugs or medication?
Well, they will not be giving drugs or medication as part of the school system. Again, I'm not for certain if that is customary in the UK to have a licensed psychiatrist that's hired by the school, but any like a clinician, a therapist, psychotherapist, any whatever term you use, the intervention is talk therapy. That's it. We don't. I don't have a license to administer medication. That is actually a MD when you start dealing with medication. So that's out. Even if it's a doctor in psychology, they do not deal with any sort of medication. So the most that will happen is a referral. They would probably give the family a referral, and at that time, a doctor would do an assessment to see if there's a need for medication. So no one is forcing anyone to take medicine. I do think we need to remove that stigma of mental health equals medication. Like, there is group therapy, individual therapy, couples therapy, play therapy, art therapy. There's so many different interventions that really is just talking.
Okay, okay. Sorry, 1 second.
You got a lot of people in the house now.
Yeah, there's a lot of people chiming in, or about to chime in a hot second. Let me just quickly share my screen and read the report. Okay, screen share. Let's go. Theresa May. I don't know why my laptop is running so slow. All right. It says here that at least mental health specialists are at least mental health specialists are to be trained to work in school for the first time, with the first intake to start by the end of next year, and 8,000 to be recruited long term. Every school is to have a senior staff member responsible for healthcare, for mental health. The government will publish an annual State of the Nation report on child mental health from next year. Mrs. May said, "We can end the stigma that has forced too many to suffer in silence. We can prevent the tragedy of suicide taking too many lives, and we can give the mental well-being of our children the priority it so profoundly deserves. The new mental health assessments are to be made available to all schools as part of new classes on mental resilience, which will be part of the curriculum from 2020. Downing Street stressed that although the classes will be mandatory, it will be up to each school whether they use the assessments or not. Okay, so very interesting, very interesting. Let's drop it now to the panel. So I'm going to open it up right now. I would love for you guys to chime in, give me your first thoughts, and let me know.
Hello?
Yep.
Yeah, big up. Anyway, yeah, family members suffering from mental illness. I'm at work, so it's a bit noisy. So, yeah, what the sister was saying was very real. But in the UK, they like to give more medication to people. Like that's what the doctors want to prescribe. They don't really. The mental health in this country is very terrible. But that's all I really wanted to chime in and say anyway.
Anybody else? I would love for any of you guys who've had experience with mental health, have gone through certain institutions, to give us some feedback and let us know and kind of educate us. We all need educating on this very topic. I think this topic is a taboo topic where we kind of shy away from it and we don't really want to discuss it. We can kind of see by the numbers right now. We've got 114 people tuned in. Usually shows like this have at least 300 people involved. So we already know this is a taboo topic. But I would love for you guys, right, to hit up the like button, hit up the like button, hit up the like button so more and more people can be aware that we're live right now on Titans TV. Now, realize that this is going to be affecting from next year onwards, right? This is going to be affecting your children. This is going to be affecting your brothers, your sisters, your nieces, your nephews, your cousins. There's somebody within inside of your family who will be affected by this. And by 2020, this will be part of the curriculum as well. So every child shall be affected by this in the oncoming years. Your children and their children's children are going to be affected by this. So this is something that I really want you guys to come in and discuss, right? Because I know growing up, we had nothing, no education to do with mental health, none whatsoever. With certain dysfunctional behaviors and negative attitudes that we had growing up, it just became normalized for us. We didn't even realize we were suffering, right? We established certain coping mechanisms which might not be productive at all, which might be having very drastic effects upon us in our later lives. But we had nobody to intervene on our behalf. The government never intervened on our behalf. Our parents weren't clued up enough to even intervene on our behalfs. So please, I love this, and family, I would love for you guys to share this link, share this link and go involved, and make sure you jump into the chat and talk about this.
Callum.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had personal experiences with mental health and battling depression and stuff like that. So and I've been in institutions, so I've been to prison, so I've dealt with those kind of things a lot of all my life, and I haven't really got any help from the NHS or any support at all, except take this pill in it and hope for the best, So it's just been family and friends that's really helped me through, getting over what I needed to get over. So, but you're right, especially in black families, so I'm black. It's very difficult. There's a lot of stigma attached to mental health. So, it's very, very, very difficult for people to talk about mental health and, the things that they go through. But anyway, I know there's a few more panel people and I'm at work. I just thought I'd chime in with that. Big up Jedi and big up the rest of the panel members.
Definitely.
Yes, family. Big up, man. Big up, fam. Who's that? How do you pronounce your name?
Shisu?
Suisu, yeah. It's me from Instagram, fam.
Shisu. Big up, my brother.
Big up.
Yeah, man. Callum, I know you probably went through a whole list of official labeling for what mental health actually is. Did that, right?
In what do you mean by labeling?
I mean, what did you start with, like a prefix of what we're talking about in terms of mental health? What are we actually talking about? Because I've just jumped in.
Yeah. Sorry. So let me just quickly get you up to speed again. So Theresa May announced, I believe it was yesterday, it's all over the newspapers today, that basically they're going to be investing 1.9 billion pounds into the education system to deal with mental health. Okay, and they're going to be doing health assessments, or should I say mental health assessments with
sorry Zay, my phone just rang. Just start that again. Sorry Callum, my phone just rang.
No problem. So they're going to be doing well-being assessments, okay, with all the children from primary school as young as 4 years old to as old as 15, 16 years old. They'll be doing mental health assessments. They're going to have, you know, mental health practitioners that be inside of the schools itself, you know, helping out basically.
That's absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Now, don't get me wrong. I know mental health is actually a real. It is a real thing. At the same time, I think we're living in a society. You know, I'm going to come from the fringe angle on this. We're living in society where I feel like we're more diagnosing normal behaviors or more normal reactions to abnormal environments. So now, obviously, our body works on law, and we were designed, or we have a certain design, and there's certain rules within our design. And our environment, unfortunately, is feeding into us, and actually, we're producing symptoms to show that we're living in an unhealthy environment. This is my opinion, isn't it? Because I don't feel like paranoid schizophrenia, dissociative personality disorder, and things of this nature, depression, were as rife if we look back in time. Do you know what I mean? So there's a reason why things are becoming more prevalent, and we need to now actually, okay, we can see the symptoms. We can see the symptoms. We actually now need to really address the causes. And I feel like opening up mental health to young children is actually going to end up, we're going to start diagnosing normal behaviors or normal responses, start putting children on medications, and opening up children's perspectives to a world where, you know, like sometimes I feel like too much options can cause problems. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So with they're going to be blah, 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 blah. It's just going to get more and more. The pharmaceutical companies are winning right now, big time. You know, with the antidepressants. And like the sister said a little bit earlier, the cure used to be mean, but where I just feel like I don't know if anyone else agrees, but I just feel like sometimes it can be a thing of too much labeling, too much diagnosing, and actually not giving the children enough time to, like, you know, break out of it or find their own feet. And we just want to rush. And I'm just worried that we're turning into a society of where we're doing like over therapy, if that makes sense. And I don't know if that's such a thing. Anyone can chime in. It's just a feeling I have, like, you know, sometimes a child is just looking for some attention, and instead they've been now labeled with a certain disorder, which then encourages them or doesn't encourage them to challenge that behavior, and instead they stay in that lane, and it's like, well, I've got this and this is just the way I am. And I feel like when we're dealing with young children who are so impressionable, I'm not really sure I'm comfortable with 6-year-olds undergoing mental health assessments. I'm not really, I don't feel that. I'm not sure how come we didn't have the need for that in the 90s or the 80s or the 70s. Let's talk about what is raising these concerns, and what are we doing in society to actually address the causes of these kind of things before we start. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, look at depression. We're in the age of social media, and we know everybody is looking at themselves through a lens of their own profile, and this is causing massive issues, from bullying to self-consciousness. You know, bulimia is on the rise, anorexia is on the rise, self-harm is on the rise. A lot of people are feeling a lot more insecure about themselves. Body consciousness, body dysmorphia is on the rise. And it's like, are we going to take stock of what we are pushing forward in the name of convenience and social media and enjoyment and entertainment? You know, are we actually going to take responsibility for the sickness we are causing, or are we just going to keep looking for cures rather than prevention?
Solid point. Solid points. I would love to get Melanated Goddess involved with this one.
Yes. One, I do, as a clinician, you know, but as a conscious woman, you know, I that is like the epitome of like my internal struggle, right? Because I am, I make a conscious effort to not support a system that perpetuates the school of pipeline system, right? So I make a conscious effort to maybe I put too much pressure on myself, but I feel like, and just to put it bluntly, my role in my building is to help these white teachers to understand these young black boys. That's literally how I feel what I do on a day-to-day basis. That no, that's not aggression. He just, he feels challenged by you, and this is his response. No, he's not hyper. He is just bored in your class. Like, like I just have to kind of help these teachers and help the student to be able to understand or remind them of appropriate classroom expectations and so forth. But I wanted to touch on what mental health would look like for a 6-year-old or a 4-year-old. It is not, I would say that not every student I see in the building has a diagnosis. I don't give them a diagnosis. I just provide a service. So I just wanted you to know that not every student that you talk to, and it could be doing a workshop on good touch, bad touch. It could be how to make friends, how to talk to your friend when they're upset. So, little Bobby don't keep punching people or pulling someone's hair and things like that. Maybe he's seeing that at home. You know what I mean? But it's not so much, oh, does your dad hit your mom? Like, we won't really like get into that detail unless he comes to you and says, this is what I see at home, or I'm afraid or something like that. Then it might be like a one-on-one session. But a lot of the work that you do with young children is school is supposed to be an extension of the home community, right? That's what I'm doing the air quotes. That's what it's supposed to be, right? So the idea of the mental health, it should be reinforcing values. It should be reminding of your good manners. Like, these are interventions, or these are things that a clinician would do with the little ones. It would not be, oh, you have ADHD, or you have schizophrenia, or you have labeling. Now, I'm not saying that labeling doesn't occur, but usually around that age, unless there is some significant learning delays, when there's learning delays, then that gets the attention of obviously the teacher and the parents. Why isn't my child learning? But, some behavior is developmentally appropriate. Kids in daycare bite each other. Like, that's what they do. They give me my toy, they bite you. So that's developmentally appropriate, and that's nothing to warrant any sort of diagnosis. If it comes in my face, I'm going to say, she's always on her phone. She's 14. Yeah, she's going to be on her cell phone. Like, you need to have a policy, you have the consistency in your classroom so that she can give you her cell phone. But she's not being defiant. She's 14. That's what they do. She's on Instagram. You know what I mean? Like that's not a diagnosis. She's on her cell phone. No, that's not oppositional defiance. No.
Yo, can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Okay, respect everybody. I had some comments in support of what Jedi was saying, but Melanated Goddess has made me think about a few other things. So I've been working in education for about 6 years. I've worked with a lot of SEN students from 19 down to, I think, my youngest. Well, I recently worked in a primary school, actually. Funnily enough, that school, they had a lady who would come in. I don't know how often she came in, but as I was leaving the school, she resurfaced at the start of term, and her job was literally to counsel these primary school children. Her method was, as far as I know, just to get the children to put a little note in the box, and obviously she collects all the notes and books, schedules appointments for the kids to come in, and they can come in on their own, or they can come in with one or two other friends to discuss issues that they have. I've got quite a lot to say on this subject, and I think I'm going to spread it out across the next hour or so of the show. One thing I wanted to say initially was that there's a massive disconnect between school and home that this policy is not going to address in the right way. What needs to happen really first is, I think I said this on one of the other streams before, but there needs to be a reconnection between home and school, because what's happening, I remember when I went to school, actually, I had problems at my home, right? And I would bring them into school, not in a way that I'm bringing them into school and it's visible what the issues are, but it's more like my playtime was school. So at school, that's where I would express things I wasn't able to express at home. So in that sense, the disconnect was live and direct, and some of the teachers would never really be able to figure it out. So in some senses, I can understand the benefits of having what you might term mental health professionals in schools, but I really think it's quite a perverse idea personally, simply because if I was living in a society where I could trust this kind of access to young children was not going to be abused by people from the state, by other civil servants, by corporations, by all these other, by the pharmaceutical and the medical industrial complex, I'd probably have less of a problem. But I know that that's not the case. I know that it's a really slippery slope once you get on that slide. Do you know what I mean? So my initial reaction is it's not a solution, because Theresa May is obviously prepared to find solutions that cost the taxpayer money, that really enable the society to still function in the way that it's been functioning, rather than changing the society to fit around these young people that have just come into the world. Right? I think it's a completely backwards way to address a problem like mental illnesses, especially at that young age, and even at an older age, you know? So it's backwards. It's completely backwards. And I don't think there's not many societies on this planet that have the guts and the resources and the presence of mind to deal with the sickness in the society, rather than in the way the society is constructed, and all of the coercion that surrounds you, yeah, from the lady who just now was talking about, you know, a young 14-year-old girl being on her phone. Like, that might not be her reaction to being told to get off her phone, might not be a mental illness, but her being on the phone might be a mental illness. You understand? So, so what she's speaking about is a normalized behavior that is not seen as a problem, but her reaction to your challenging of that behavior, that's where the question is. No, I disagree. I think you know, the foundations of the society need to be redrawn, and that's a big challenge. And it's not a challenge I think many contemporary politicians are prepared to make, or just regular people in general.
Yeah, that's a steep one right there. I've got a question over here. It says here, oh no, sorry, not a question, a statement. It says here, make mindfulness meditation mandatory in schools? Question mark. So, Melanated Goddess, how can I put it?
Yes, there are a lot of evidence-based interventions that focus on mindfulness. So it's kind of I'm pleased. I started smiling when you read that, because I was actually trained on this 16-week long intervention called Spark. And I don't know what Spark stands for, but it has something to do with trauma, and it's focused on adolescents. So it's for high school age students. And what you do is you get them to become mindful, and you start with certain exercises that allows it forces them to stop and just be mindful of that moment. So we don't call it meditation. You know, we in school we can't say we're going to meditate, but definitely it's like focusing, like literally like on a tiny sound or a tiny, you know, I think one exercise we blow bubbles, and we get them to focus on one bubble and what the shape is of that bubble and what colors they see in that bubble, to get them to focus. And, you know, over the 16 weeks, the focus, you know, the aim is to get them to focus on what physiologically, mentally, what was going on to trigger their behaviors, to get them to slow down in the moment before they respond. So I'm not saying that people have arrived. I think that there are attempts in the right direction. But I had a question about. I'm hearing this medication so much. Like, can the school in the UK? Because I don't want to assume it's the same. Can the school demand or for a student to be on medication?
No.
No. So the only case of that would be in collaboration with the education board, the SENCO, so the Special Educational Needs Coordinator, CAMS, which is a mental health organization that deals with youth mental health, actually. So yeah, they would make a recommendation. It wouldn't be the school. The school would flag up issues, but then, and obviously, I mean, the parent can also flag up issues as well. But assessments would then be made. In fact, what's interesting is in recent times, it's been harder and harder and harder to get diagnosis. And this is just for educational purposes. This is not mental health per se. But yeah, it's been harder and harder to actually get diagnosis for students to get the extra help they need at schools. But yeah, no, the schools have no powers to ask for medication for any kid and stuff like that.
'Cause I will say, if I worked with 20 students and five of them were white and 15 of them were black, I would say I would probably have 7 students on medication, and 5 of the 7 would be white, and two of them would be black. Like, in the United States, black parents don't care what that doctor says. They still don't. They might get a prescription, but they do not give it to their kids, and those kids come to school wilding out. I'm just saying. I'm just saying that, especially when they're really young, right? And when they're really young, at, personally, I'm against it. So I don't remind the parent. I don't ask them. If a kid is 6 years old and he gets out of his seat, walks around the class, and rolls on the floor, I'm not gonna say like, oh, he's out of control and all of that. Maybe he's bored. Maybe he knows that material already. You know, there's a whole host of reasons where that comes from, and that's why I like mental health, because I'm curious. I want to know why. Why is he doing this? I'm not going to put the hammer down and be this disciplinarian or want to throw a pill in his mouth just to get him to be docile and drugged up. So, but I was just really curious about the whole medication piece, because it does sound like maybe parents are a little bit powerless over there in the U.S. I mean, in the UK, that they are kind of encouraged to put their children on medication.
All right, and let me bring another element into this conversation as well. I wanted to bring the, the gang culture into the conversation. I want to bring in violence into the equation as well. And I want to ask a question: how many of the children? Because there's now reports saying that, exclusions actually aided, more gang crime, according to Sajid Javid. So I want to know if anybody has anything on that. Let me just actually share my screen from what I'm actually reading. So we got violence. So over here, it says here, Sajid Javid, studies links school exclusions to rising gang crime.
Hold on.
I want to know, is there any proof to that?
Hold on. So they say violence should be treated as a contagious disease. So when we're looking at our leaders of Britain, yeah, we're British citizens, we're British members of Britain.
Very.
When we're looking at our leaders, yeah, and they're saying, okay, this country is not doing as we would like, so we're going to send some fighter jets over them to drop some missiles. Like, this is violence. This is violence of the most extreme order. Are we saying that our leaders are suffering from a contagious disease? Because violence is how order is kept by our so-called civilized civilization. So I mean, until we stop dealing with our issues in the world with violent conflicts, I don't think that it's appropriate to start saying violence is a contagious disease. I don't believe that. No, violence is a byproduct of humanity, yeah, and conflict, and it's something that should be explored by all means. We need to find ways around it, conflict resolution by all means. But now to diagnose or to turn violence into some kind of abnormality, this further goes to show how far we're straying from nature. We need to get everything in its balance, and I think to think of violence as being something that is abnormal to humanity is actually a fallacy in itself, because we can't look at any pocket of humanity where violence hasn't existed. So I mean, we have to take into stock that we are actually creatures, biological, and conflicts, especially with this gift of consciousness, and we have ideas and thoughts and intention and will. We're definitely going to come into conflict with others that are equally exercising their will, and sometimes it may end in violence. And if anything, we need to broaden our horizons on how we deal with these subjects, rather than demonizing a set of society, when the upper echelons of society are actually engaging and problem solving in the exact same ways. So until we have no world wars, so to speak, I don't think we're in the right to criminalize or demonize anybody that's engaging in this practice, because it's something that has run throughout history. And we just need to take stock, rather than the shock tactics of, oh my God, it's a contagious disease. I mean, no, I mean, violence is actually contagious. Violence is actually something that, if I get violent with you, you're going to get violent with me, and blah blah blah. I do get that, but it is interwoven with our very existence. So we can't stray too far from the fact that we are actually beings and humans, and violence is actually a part of society. We just need to put it in its proper box and get people to understand a value for life, per se. You know, because I think that's a bigger issue, not just the violence, but the value for life, you know? But that's my opinion. That's my 2 cents. I just feel like all these shock tactics, all these shock little, the Daily Mail says, violence is a disease. And it's like, bro, and then you're going to say that Theresa May has ordered airstrikes on this set of people, and we're going to be like, yeah, that's right, because like they're tyrants, and yes, the embargoes and haven't worked, so yes, it's only right we're going to be. But it's violence of the highest order, like I said before. So I mean, yeah, let's get some balance in this conversation, because we all know that those that claim to be the most civilized have only got to that through a path of violence. With all the intellectualism that is there, our country still go to war.
That's right. Violence begets violence. But let me ask you though, when you're outside and growing up on the streets, for example, I shouldn't say that. That sounds so bad. But just growing up, would you see that a lot of individuals that are part of gang crimes were individuals that were excluded from school?
Yeah, but I mean, what is this gang? What's gang? Define a gang crime.
Gang crime is, yeah, it's a group of individuals who are on the same alignment to actually perpetrate a crime. I would say a group of individuals perpetrating a crime.
Well, come on, man. Let's be honest. Like I always have to say, look, I always try to take it away from the man on the street and say, if we're talking about a group of individuals that perpetuate crimes, look no further than our government. I mean, and they were the most educated, Eton and all sorts. You get me? So if you're talking about gang crime, a group of individuals that perpetuate a crime, look no further than our governments. That's what I would say. So like I said, it's easy to look at a subsection or a section of society and actually create this whole narrative that explains, like this is the state of the streets and this is what's going on. And we have these gangs that are out there committing crimes, but that's not actually reality. The terminology for gang is being misused. Because like I said, I see no bigger gang than the governments that we vote for and we vote into power. They are a massive gang and they actually perpetuate crimes, as we all know. So I mean, man, I just feel like if we're going to talk about people from a certain section of society, we have to talk about them from an honest basis, looking from how the world actually runs, not from a tabloid kind of view of, oh, gang crime. I don't believe in gang crime, because crime is crime. Usually, any crime of any significance takes more than one person to carry out. So you'd say a majority of crime is gang crime if we stuck to your definition.
Indeed. So, do you think that this, and I'm going to open this up to everybody as well, do you think that these well-being assessments may have a positive impact in cutting down the amounts of, number one, truancy, cutting down the amounts of exclusions, and also, kind of, how can I put it, identifying certain children that may have issues, may have anger issues, and give them that much needed intervention?
Yeah, I think they're going to use a one-size-fits-all kind of tactic in it. I'm not saying that healthcare professionals are so incompetent that they can't deal with individual cases, but largely, I think there's going to be some children who should not and should never have gone to speak to a psychiatrist or whoever it is that's going to be deployed to these schools. Because I think I can imagine that the decision is not going to be the child, not like in the school that I was talking about earlier on. The decision is going to be made by somebody else, the teacher, maybe even a parent, whoever. Do you know what I mean? So I don't, and in answer to your question, so therefore I think some people are going to, might benefit from, some young people might benefit from it, some might not. And I don't think it's really going to overall change the numbers. So I think similar, if there's been an increase in children getting excluded, I think that number is going to continue to increase regardless of whether you have mental health professionals there or not, because the diagnoses could be wrong, bare things could be happening. And like I said, because there's a disconnect between the home and the school, unless, and again, this is this mistrust I have for the state, unless, and I suppose inevitably, if there's a problem with a student and that person, that student is seen by a mental health professional, that's going to get passed to social services, right? That's the only link that they can have, the schools can have with home. And it's a really porcelain link. It's not a real link. Yeah, it's a manufactured link. It's not real. It's not holistic. The school system in this country is not holistic anyway. There's a deep compartmentalization of home, school, out on the street. It's all in little sections. The society is split up into little sections, and it's not healthy. So I don't really see that the numbers are going to change. All I see is that it's just going to make things more and more complicated, and you're going to have people, and yeah, it's just, to me, it sounds like an ugly, ugly future.
I would have to agree with the brother that I would think that what having these mental health providers in the school, what will result from that is we like to call them internalizing behaviors, right? So internalizing, like Jedi was talking about, self-harm, suicidal ideations. I think those type of screenings will help to screen those type of students. The ones who are victims of being bullied, the ones with the low self-esteem, the anorexic students. I don't think that that's a good tool to identify students with this anger, aggression, who may be gang affiliated, because I don't know any gang person who's going to fill out a form and say, yeah, I'm in a gang. Like, I just don't know that. But what I think a better intervention is putting like mentors, mentorship programs, and improving any sort of activity that these students actually want to be involved in. If they're into music, maybe have somebody volunteer to show them how to do music production or audio and visual, or if they're into, athletics, or if they're into African dance, have someone come. That will take kids off the street, even if it's from 3, maybe they're getting home at 5 or 6. That's less time outside, and just like the brother said, you have to have parent engagement. And my school, parents, these parents are invited to the school way more than I was invited to my own child's school. You know, every quarter we have an honor roll thing where the entire grade is invited. They have back to school night, parent night, Hispanic night, this night. I mean, it's crazy. A food fair. They're always trying to come up with something to invite the parents. And what the teachers do they create some sort of incentive. So, oh, you get extra credit if your parent shows up, you know, or you get no homework for you if your parent shows up. So the kids are like, mommy, you gotta come because I don't want to do no homework, you know, or I need extra credit. And the parents are like, okay, whatever. They show up. That's one. Those are strategies to kind of build that bridge because, like the brother said, it really is true. If you're saying be nice to your friends and then your parent is driving and they cussing out the people in the car, that's not a continuum of the value, you know. But I'm not saying that the screening is a bad tool, but I don't think, you know, realistically that a screening tool to screen an entire school is going to get students who are at risk of
You feel like it's just
stabbing up somebody.
giving you a headache,
That's my opinion.
your neck, your spine. You don't feel that kind of pressure, nothing.
Wow. You don't feel that, baby?
Mark,
Baby.
man, let me have to mute your mic.
Hey,
'Cause you're
baby,
getting mixed right
you,
now.
you don't feel that, baby?
You feel that massage? Tissue right now, baby. I'm about to get deep inside those.
Deep tissue. Yeah. Some
Hey, I didn't even realize you know.
hey, you about to get deep in that tissue. Hey.
Nah, because she's got a headache in it. She's not feeling well.
saying that. You don't feel that, baby. Hey, Mark, walk on, family.
What you saying, man?
Yeah, big up, man. Big up to you in the
Say hello, Kasu.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, big up, Kasu, man. Yeah, man. Hope you lot are cool, man. Yeah, anyway, bro, it's deep, Kalam, man. I mean, mental health is something like, it's a weird one, yeah, because as much as you can recognize these symptoms in your peers, in yourself, in other people, I still think we, like Mark kind of touched on, we really need to, our first things first, we need to protect the young. We need to protect our young. And I think it's dangerous to fall into a trap of feeling like, how can I put this without sounding too conspiracy theory? Look, your first and foremost obligation is to the well-being and safety of your child. And I feel like if everyone took a more of a personal approach and didn't really leave it up to the government and so to speak and social workers and things like that, I think we'd be a much healthier place. Because right about now, my concern is people that claim to be more educated than you are gonna now start making prognoses, diagnoses, suggestions about your child's future and well-being. Like at such developmental ages, I just feel like where the parents are not educated enough on these subjects, there's a risk. You know, I feel like there's actually a risk because I'm not one of them people that feel like, oh, if the government say it, then yeah, like it's right. Like I'm not there, innit? I'm not in that place, and I just feel like a lot of responsibility, a lot of power has been taken out of the household. A lot of responsibility has been taken away from the parent themselves, and actually now being placed into a third body, a tertiary body, like where we now there's more disempowerment, there's more lack of empowerment in the parents. We already have that already, you know, and I feel like if we encourage that even more, the state makes its way even further into the household, and then we're running a huge risk of being in this totalitarian society, this George Orwell type of Big Brother, where we actually have government agents inside of our homes, running our families, medicating, diagnosing, and where is the responsibility from those that actually created the life? Where's the responsibility from the actual parents? like we're moving so far away from the village way of being and more into this, hey, yeah, for 7 hours a day, you teach my child, you diagnose my child's mental state, you give them whatever food and whatever medication you like, and I'm just gonna go along with it because you must have my best interests at hand. And I haven't seen a society where that type of approach has worked, and I don't think we should really follow that. We need to take stock of what we are actually doing in our homes, and until we get to that point, all of this is just futile. All of this is just really, I see the Hegelian dialectic: problem, reaction, solution. Hegelian dialectic. That is what I am seeing, where actually the powers that be want this level of access into our homes, and they're using mental health as a smoke screen to actually start doing the psychometric testing on our children and start profiling our children from young. They've already tried from a criminal justice avenue. Oh, we're going to start looking at potential offenders, those that come from criminalistic households, yada, yada, yada. Now we're moving into mental health. Oh, we're just making sure the well-being of our children. And before you know it, everybody's going to be like labeled and tagged up and in their little boxes and having these little government agents in their house. Like, where is the privacy? Where is the autonomousness? We're just moving so far away from sovereignty, in my opinion. Sorry, like, yeah. I just feel like all of this is just a further step away from actually sovereignty, which is the direction we should be moving in. We're moving into this nanny state even further and further and further. And a lot of people are not going to like it when they turn around and realize they have absolutely no power within their household to say, do you know what, my child, look, we're already at the state of, if you don't vaccinate your child, sorry to go off, but like, look at vaccinations. If these medications for the mental health that is diagnosed gets to the level of vaccination where it becomes compulsory, your child won't be able to attend mainstream education without certain medication, without proving that they take it. And that's a very dangerous place to be. We already have children that can't attend school because they haven't had certain vaccinations. Is that going to be the same for these mental health drugs? If your child's not on Ritalin, he's been diagnosed as being high risk for Ritalin, he's displayed some behavior in nursery. If your child's not on Ritalin, we can't have him in school. Are we going to go down that road?
All right. Very, those are some very curious points. And I think we need to jump into that in a hot second. I've got over here on the chat section, I'm going to be taking some chats, some comments on the chat, some super chats right now. So we've got Opus Dei, all right? I know a lot of you lot have heard of this name, Opus Dei, put in that stunning work for us. It says here, people will be marked for life. And when older and with an opposite meaning, this can be used to lock them up in mental institutions or prisons. All right. So yeah, these are the fears that a lot of us actually have, and these are actually warranted fears. We have seen certain things like this take place in other countries. So these are definitely valid fears that could potentially happen in the future to our children. But what I want to do now, is this: how can we get the parents? How can we get the parents ahead of this? All right. This is something that we can't stop. All right. There is definitely some positive in it, and there could potentially be some pitfalls in it as well. How can we get our parents, the parents themselves, to get actually ahead of this? What can we do? Can we start learning, teaching them about well-being assessments? Can we start doing these things prior in our household? Can we start taking track of our children's mental health ourselves? Can we do monthly tests with our children or monthly assessments with our children ourselves? Can we do that? Can we educate ourselves? Can we tell the parents that they need to be on board on the PTA, the Parent Teacher Association, so they can be fully informed what's going on inside of the schools themselves? How can they have a voice? How can they have power and implement things or raise concerns within inside of the school itself, right? What are the things that we can do as parents to safeguard our children? What are the indicators, right? We can actually learn from mental health clinicians or practitioners to identify or spot if our children are self-harming or if it could potentially lead to suicides as well. So I want to know, I'm going to put out the question to everybody, and I want to put it out first and foremost to Eche, then to Afro Man. So what can the parents do to get ahead of this coming into the school system next year and being part of the curriculum in 2020?
Yeah, so I think there needs to be a cultural shift with regards to attitude to mental health. Can you hear me, by the way? All right. So me, I'm speaking as somebody that actually went through this mental health system. I'm talking the whole 9, sectioning, medication, getting tasered, all of those good things over there. And I think there needs to be a shift in the attitude towards mental health in general. Because if you're looking at it from an antagonistic perspective, and if the stigma still holds, whether it's the religious stigma, pray away, or you don't want to be seen as the pariah in the family, none of these things are ultimately going to be helping the situation. So I think what needs to happen at a community level is, whether it's the church, and I see some of these conversations happening, but those institutions where the stigma lies, the parents need to go find out what to do if their child presents with some of these symptoms. Find out, because my parents, my family, when it happened to me, they had to become experts as it was happening. And so obviously with physical injuries, we know what to do. We call your 999, go to accident and emergency. But with mental health, that ignorance is still rife in the community. So in order to stay ahead of the game, that cultural attitude needs to change first and foremost. And I guess
Good.
furthermore, the relationship between the children themselves and the parents, that dialogue needs to be open. Because if you're afraid to speak to your parents, if you're facing or having a particular issue, then things will boil up, bubble up, and then unfortunately it can manifest in a number of ways. But in order to avoid getting sectioned, in order to avoid going into the mental health system at the emergency side of things, which I unfortunately did, but I can only look back at my experiences and say, okay, what could have actually prevented me from getting sectioned? And to be fair, in my particular scenario, it would have taken education at a younger age, whether we're talking in a school context, in a family context, in a church context, whatever it may be. So that's just a couple of thoughts on that particular issue.
All right, thank you. So please, let's get it opened up. I appreciate your input on that. It's very, like, I love the array of panel members that we have right now. We have a lot of people that's been affected by mental health. We've also got a mental health clinician on board with us right now. We have various different people on the panel. So I'm going to open it up to Afro Man right now. So Raf, talk to me, King.
Yeah. Peace to the panel, yeah. And shout out everyone, and big up me especially, man. Big up me especially. But well, you're asking how would parents deal with it and whatnot. Is that what you're trying to ask? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, we hear you, bro. I
Yeah.
think, yeah.
No, he's wondering what the question is, Kalam. Like, maybe if you could concise it down
Yeah.
for a minute.
Kalam did a sly one, bro. He asked the question right away, man.
No, that was the question, fam. That was the question. How do you think parents should deal with it?
Oh, okay. So, oh no, I feel like there's is a how do you say it? There's a generation divide in it. So it's like a lot of people can't relate to a lot of the youth. So I feel like what they classify as, bad behavior and whatnot is not really what we would see today as, like, where some people in the panel already said it, like, certain things like, oh, they answer back to the teacher. But some people might say, yes, oh, you're just questioning the teacher or whatnot. And people just take it as, oh, because they backchat to the teacher, therefore they're being rude or they're questioning authority or whatever. So I don't know, like it's I feel like one of the things that people ain't looking at is who are majority of the people in prison and what's their background. Like, you know, you're never gonna hear about people from Eton or whatever or all them top schools being in prison, right? You're gonna hear about people from lower class, working class backgrounds being in prison. So that's one of the things I'm saying. I see and I say, um, yeah, it's more to do with you know, people going like poverty is poor in money. I see poverty as more as poor in the mindset caused by your environment, isn't it? Your poor environment gives you to a poor mindset, and then all that negativity that you have coming from your poor environment, you take it to school, and then you know it's not really negativity, but some of it can be perceived to be negativity because of certain rules that have been put there to tell you what it is and what how it is. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling, but yeah, that's how I see it anyway. Yeah, did anyone hear that?
Yeah, I heard that, bro.
Yeah,
Hello, everyone.
yeah. That's all I say on the topic. Really, like I think parents should be more open with their kids. Like for me, I advocate talking anything and everything. Is nothing's off limits. That's how I see it anyway.
Yo, man, you think it's okay for you to like give your kid a slap, like physically, physical discipline?
No, I don't think so. Why?
Yeah, cause you were saying something earlier on about kids talking shit back to the teachers and that. Innit?
Yeah, yeah,
Like, if I talk shit back to my parents when I was a kid, you get me, bro?
yeah.
Like,
Same way here.
yeah,
Same thing here. Like I'm from Nigerian background. You know, like we don't
yeah,
question parents at all. But I disagree with that wholeheartedly because I feel like questioning is how you learn, and also it's more time it's just shutting down people.
you,
It's not actually like you're actually you're trying to understand and explain. You're just more shutting down the kid and telling them, yeah, you listen, I'm older than you, I know better, therefore don't question me.
yeah, I see that, man. But then,
So what you guys don't feel as if like physical discipline of a person's child should be at the discretion of the parent rather than some kind of like unified norm, because at the end of the day nobody's going to know their child as well as the parent. So if they feel as in that moment a physical kind of prevention is going to be good for the child, then that should
But
be
that's
at their
not
discretion, shouldn't it?
not all children are known very well by their parents. You understand? Like certain things children show to their parents, they don't show to what's it called? They might show more to people outside. So it's not always like true what people say when they say parents know what's best for their children. Obviously, like
I agree that the parent won't always know what's best for the child, but what I do believe is that 99% of the time the parent is telling the child what's in their best interest.
nah,
So from my perspective, like obedience to the parents is going to solve a lot of the problems, but obviously it's a lot easier said than done in a
you see what I'm saying.
disobedient kind of
So
children
then
But
society.
hold on.
what's different from the
Are
school
we
then?
are we talking about mental health or are we talking about bad behavior? Different things, you know. Are we talking about mental health or lack of discipline? Two
No,
different
but we
things. So if we strain onto this conversation about how parents should deal with their children and blah blah blah, then are we saying that
no,
discipline has an effect on what is now prescribed as mental health situations?
yeah, because now
So then
we
that's not mental health, that's behavioral health.
Yeah,
yeah,
I think they're two
So
different
how
topics,
much?
though, if I'm
So
honest.
I feel like, and this is I agree with you guys. I feel like there's a lot of children suffering with behavioral difficulties, behavioral or whatever, uh, um, difficulties, but being prescribed as a
mental
mental
health.
issue. Yeah,
Yeah,
mental
you're
health
right,
issue,
right.
and then they're getting dealt with medication, which is not right. So how much faith do we have in these diagnoses that these practitioners are handing out? Because they're just human beings like us, and that's your child. So yeah, I think what we're seeing right now is a symptom of a sickness within society in terms of how we're raising our children and what the environment is actually doing to the children's minds and perceptions of self. And I feel like we're getting to this point where someone's going to misbehave and we're going to say, oh, he's got this disorder, give him this medication. And like for instance, all the E numbers that they put in the foods, microwave, all these technologies. I always say it because everything that we talk about always has a deeper root. If we actually check it, there's a lot of things that we're doing in society in 2018 that is contributing towards what we perceive as a degradation in mental health, but actually they're just symptoms of 2018. Do you know what I mean? And hence why you don't see these things in like the 1800s or whatever, for example. Do you know what I mean? So
I think it's more to do with power and control. So I see it as a more of an extension of slavery and colonialism and all them things there. I don't really want to take it back to there, but when it's like we're in this system where people are given rules that we don't make up, a certain group of people make them up, and we have to abide by them, even though some of them might seem good or whatnot, but really and truly, like, it's just common sense, some of most of these rules. Like, if you don't hurt someone, you know, then that you're not gonna really get hurt back. Doesn't mean it happens in all cases. Some people might say karma and all that, but like generally, like, you know, that's not something that you should be making a law around. Really, you should just know that if you're a bad person to someone, that's something else. I'm trying not to swear, you know, but yeah, you don't do stuff to people and then don't expect and you won't expect anything back. That's where I'm coming from on most of what we're taught in society, but a lot of people don't see it in it. People just, I think, it's an extension of capitalism. I've always said I'm against capitalism, and capitalism is what's causing all this problems where a certain group of people from the majority of the people that we're talking about now are from lower working class backgrounds, or not even lower working class, but from not an elitist or what you would call middle, no, not middle, upper middle class background. So these people end up being, you know, they're the commoners, and if they don't abide by those laws made by those certain groups of people, um, they're gonna end up in what some the sister said earlier, the pipeline program
Mm.
from school, in it. So that's what
Yeah.
it is, really.
See, I was talking about physical discipline. You talking about capitalism.
Yeah, but it's this
Judge
it's
is talking about mental health. Like,
no,
what's
but
the topic
it
over here,
all
bro?
relates. It all relates because where
Tie
we're
in, bro.
where we're talking about the whole um where we talk about discipline and how we deal with, you're talking about how we deal with the situation. I'm saying that the symptom of it is what's causing it is capitalism, and Jedi's talking about how um basically that um it's also a symptom of it, like our environment and whatever and whatnot is causing it and whatever. And you're saying that how we should deal with it is maybe more discipline, and I'm just saying, well, if you know, you can't keep punishing people. You got to eventually make them understand what they've done is wrong. You know, prevention
Can,
is better than punishment.
can I say that um in the United States, it's a a lot of the philosophy on how to handle this, it comes from a punitive perspective, and I don't see it to be helpful at all. So you have parents who are very punitive and cross boundaries from what typical correction and discipline would be to the point of abuse, right? Then you have administration, you have deans and so forth that and principals that categorize, similar to what Jedi was saying about like developmentally appropriate, maybe rough behavior, and their immediate response is something punitive. So the student is getting suspended from school for a couple of days. They're serving in school suspension. They're removed from their classroom so that they're losing time of instruction from learning. They are sent to the office. They get labeled, you're this bad child. And it takes a while for them to start, well, maybe they should go talk to the social worker, or, because maybe the student needs to um, to talk, because this is especially our young boys, they are not reared even from the home to express themselves. If they fall down, they can't even cry. Wipe your face. Shut up. You shut it up. Like that's how they raise their boys. So the boys aren't doing that. Then I don't know if this is. I was going to pose this question. In the United States, a lot of the high schools have middle schools have police officers. So that's a whole nother level of this punitive thing where they see. I mean, they have their guns and they come in the building and they're walking around, and sometimes they come into the classroom, or a kid will get into a little minor scuff. Even if they're in a fight, now you have a police officer who has a gun. Like
Right. So
that's horrible.
we say no violence. Johnny fighting with James is no good. No violence. Violence is no way to answer or to deal with a conflict. And then the officer comes in with his gun. The ultimate force, the ultimate representation of violence or potential violence. It makes no sense.
And that image of that police officer alone is traumatizing, because these kids have watched Philando Castillo get shot. They've watched Sandra Bland get killed. They watched Corinne Gaines get killed. They watch this stuff, and now these people in blue are in my school. It's just, to me, it's just crazy. So
we got to remember, when we in England, we had the bobbies on the beat come in their nice presentation uniforms, not the uniforms that they wear when they chase a man down. They got some like official uniforms that they wear to court and functions, and they come to the school and it's the friendly bobby, and you're like, rah. And like some schools, they turn on the police light, they bring the police car and they turn on the police light, and it's all like, oh yeah, police, that's cool. And then you come out and you're playing in the summer holidays and you see a police hog tie a guy on the floor, 10 of them around them, people are screaming and shouting, threatening to spray people with CS gas, or in America, threatening to shoot someone or actually shooting someone. And this is what I'm saying. Authority in itself in our society is stamped with violence. And any of these children that are feeling disempowered from situations at home or in their communities are obviously going to flock towards the ultimate solution to their problems, which has been portrayed by our very own governments as violence. If I look, put it this way, I always say to you, look,
the police
who watched the Avengers?
Hug and kiss criminal.
Look, bro, who watched the Avengers? Any one of these Marvel films that have come out in the last 4 years, who has watched them?
Why are you saying Marvel? Why don't you say all movies?
No. I'm just gonna deal with Marvel because Marvel is popular right now. It's pushed there. You can see a Marvel character on the side of your bus. Yeah. You can see a
Marvel pushing the Antichrist agenda. By the way,
listen. You can see a Marvel character on someone's lunchbox, on a sticker on the fridge. So what I'm saying is, it is accepted. These things are accepted as part of our reality. However, every X-Men, every Avenger is what? A violent motherfucker.
Have you ever watched Tom and Jerry cartoons?
Yeah, of course.
Tom and Jerry cartoons have some of the most horrifically violent scenes.
I know,
have
but I'm trying to bring
Elmer
it up to date
Fudd
because
try
Tom
to
and Jerry's
take
not
out Bugs Bunny.
Tom and Jerry's not more. People not watching Tom and Jerry anymore. Tom and Jerry's not more violent than the Hulk picking up.
It's exactly the same.
It's not more violent than the Hulk picking up Thor by his neck and smacking him on the concrete to the concrete
same.
smack.
It's exaggerated cartoon violence.
I would put to you that now that it's more graphic and it's more realistic than ever a cartoon ever was.
Nonsense. You're the old man talking about how things were different back in your day. Back in my day, we used to leave our doors unlocked. You young man, get off my lawn.
You're the one talking about Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry's old school. I'm bringing it to the Avengers,
yes,
which is a film. Marvel, which is a film that I'm
talking about how things are more violent in modern times compared to before.
So you think the kids? Hold on 1 second. You think the kids are watching Tom and Jerry?
It's not a worthwhile argument because you're both like agreeing that what we've consumed is violent, so we can move on from that. I think.
But the thing is, the violence is the same. It hasn't changed.
Okay, thank you, my brother. But
you just think that you somehow was better back in your day.
I never said that at all. I never once said that.
It is because you're talking about modern violence versus like what was it better in the past? What was different?
Can you listen to me? The reason I'm talking about modern violence is because we are talking about the modern wave of mental health issues that are in our modern schools, in modern society. So we could easily talk about how it was 10, 15 years ago. Today is about what's happening. The initiatives that Theresa May has announced in our schools, yeah, is about modern society now. That's why I'm giving you relevant examples. Yeah,
It's what it
what's wrong?
is that
Okay,
we're
no problem,
raising
bro.
weak people. We're
All right.
raising weak children, and we're filling them up with pills because we think that boisterousness is somehow a negative thing. It's because we're coming from a feminist female perspective
Nah,
of how
listen,
boys
I'm
should
gonna
behave. That's why
big
this
man,
bullshit term
big
toxic
man,
masculinity comes
big
around.
man,
Every time boys want to be boys want
big
to
man.
play. Boys have
Hold on, bro.
testosterone, and they need to be
Big
dealt
man,
with in that way.
big man,
People used to think that boys should grow up to be strong,
big man,
responsible adults. Now we're raising feminized little bitches that want to
big
transgender
man,
themselves into
Facts.
all sorts of
big
fucking
man,
bullshit with their nail polish
big
and their makeup,
man,
and they don't want to be called boys or girls
big
anymore. They
man.
want to be
This
called zers and
big man,
z's because they don't identify to any
big man. This
sexual
I agree with the
identification
guy.
that used to be quite
big man,
clear back in the day.
big man. That ain't got nothing to do with that, man. Like you went on a little bit of rant. The only thing I can see. So fair enough. It's your experience in it. That I shouldn't really say that it's not really what you can see, but like from my experience, all I'm seeing is they want people to be more conforming. That's it. That's as simply as I can put it. They want more children to conform. And how are they going to get them to conform? Maybe they'll drug them up, or maybe they'll put in more disciplinary acts or punishments or whatever to get people to conform more. That's what they want. That's all it. That's how all I see the agenda being.
Afro man, does that extend to adults as well then, in terms of conformity?
Yeah,
Definitely, it must do.
yeah, it does.
Yes, they want to raise a generation of weak, pill-dependent children, so
That's
they
not nothing.
become weak,
What's that got to do with
pill-dependent
conforming?
adults to have the state be their mummy and daddy for the rest
What's
of
that
their
got to do
life.
with conforming though?
Can I just chime in quickly? Because as someone that's gone through this madness, when I was giving away belongings and going through the manic episode, and I'm thinking this is normal behavior for me, right? My whole thought process is society is broken. I can't, in that mind state, see that something's wrong with me, right? And so you can say to that argument, okay, I'm actually not conforming, but my behavior moved into a point where it became detrimental, thus me being sectioned at the end of the day. And I guess even getting the diagnosis of bipolar disorder, there's a label on my back. And I guess I had a kind of fear or a kind of distrust towards medication and thinking, okay, they want to control me, they're going to numb me down. But we need to have a balanced approach to this. There are certain conditions, there are certain individuals where these same medications is what's keeping them alive, is what's keeping them going, right? So if we paint the kind of mental health system as this monolith that's out to get us or out to make us into these, I guess, people that conform, like that is not a fair reflection of the whole situation. And I'm talking from personal experience, having gone through both the good and the bad, therapy and everything. And I guess it's even heightened when you kind of look at the kind of ethnic minorities, because when they placed me into the intensive care unit, that's when I saw the most black and minority groups in there. So there's something happening in the communities. The researchers and those guys, they can't agree. Some people say it could be racism. Some people say it could be the society that you're born in. It could be the immigrant experience, but there is no consensus. And I personally believe that if the narrative is being painted that it's a them against us, or there's a reason to distrust the system, that in a long-term basis, that's not going to help them.
Just happens to be the truth, though, man. The numbers don't lie, man. When you look around you, the numbers of mental health don't lie. Yeah, this current way of living is disagreeable to a certain set of society, and it is it is detrimental to their mental health. The statistics show you that. That's the end of it. It's not necessarily down to the parenting of how this group are parented, or the social awareness of this group, or the type of substances that this group consume, blah 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 blah. At the end of the day, society is weaponized. People don't want to admit it. People want to find any excuse to deny what they see before their very eyes. Yeah, take a walk through Brixton, take a walk through Peckham. Yeah, poverty, degradation, and lack of opportunities breeds mental health issues in today's
Did I not say
society.
that?
End of story. I'm not
Did I
saying
not?
you. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying
Trust
you
me.
never.
Big up,
I
big
wasn't
up.
saying that. Not no one on the panel. I'm saying in general, innit? Yeah. It, it, it's like we're shy to admit it, and then people try to shame you. Oh, look at you! You got a victim mentality. Whatever the statistics show
Yes.
you when it comes to criminal justice,
Let's
when it
defend
comes to mental
capitalism.
health, when sorry.
Let's defend capitalism.
I didn't hear that. What do you say?
Defend
I didn't hear.
capitalism, innit? Keep defending capitalism. That's what I keep saying.
Okay.
No, I just think that it is a victim mentality. It is a victim culture that we've developed into right now.
Ah,
Everybody has a hashtag Twitter shit after them as soon as they feel a little bit annoyed, a little bit upset. Oh, we can't upset anyone. Crying out loud, we have hate speech laws. We're trying to make hate illegal. The emotion of hate is now practically a criminal offense, that I can't hate things. Yes, there's a lot of shit I like to hate. I like hating things. Hate is a part of the human product. You can't just extract these emotions from people and expect them to just be fine with
All
it.
right,
Oh, I'm
Banksy,
not allowed to
Banksy,
hate anymore.
come with the solution. What's the solution in it? Because you
The
talking.
solution is
Go
we
on,
got to
go
buck up. We got to actually go back to some old values. We got to go
on.
back to the family
Some
unit.
kumbaya, yeah?
We've got to actually, no, not kumbaya. I
That's what it
think we
sounds
should
like,
take
bro.
personal responsibility for our
Yeah.
actions and take personal responsibility for how we behave in society, and actually take personal responsibility for our families.
Right,
Stop
he's
having these
Yo,
But
single
then that
parents
but
and
like
means
what
start
said,
mothering single
that means
parents.
shrugging off the nanny
mm,
state. If we're gonna take personal responsibility, some of our personal responsibilities have been taken away from us. Would you
mm.
agree, Banksy?
No, I don't. I think
Like
you
for
have
instance,
more
you
the
see,
chance
personal
you see how
responsibility
confused
of
he is.
to
of
for
getting ahead in
instance,
this
You're not even
country
for
allowed
than
to
you do
defend
in a
the
yourself.
personal
thousand other countries around the
Banksy,
world.
Banksy, for instance, the personal responsibility to chastise your child and discipline your child in a manner you see fit has been taken away from parents. Would you agree?
What do you mean? What personal responsibility has been taken away from parents?
Punishing your child for doing something wrong.
Yeah,
Chastisement. I said
that is
chastisement,
absolutely wrong.
discipline, and punishment
Yeah,
has been
that
taken
is the
away.
mother. That's the
So
nanny
would you
state that
agree
we've
that
created.
the state is pushing that? Yeah.
Well, they are, because we let them. If we actually stop, if we put a line in the
So
sand
you're
and say,
asking for
no,
Exploring the
this is
logic,
revolution.
where
isn't
you
it?
no
It's
longer
exploring the
tell me
logic.
how I
I,
treat my child.
how do we do that? If right now we're dealing with laws, how do we now, as the people, say, look, we actually want to regress some of the laws that you've put in that have taken away our autonomousness in terms of parenting? How do we actually go about
Gang,
reversing the laws?
Raz, sorry, Jedi, you know about gang, you know about mobilizing people, you know about organizing people. What do you think you do? You organize, you mobilize people, you get people of what you, of your mindset or your policies into government, and then within government you change policies. What do you think the feminists have been doing? The social justice warriors have done? They've very cleverly positioned their people within key places within government, and now they're pushing their agendas, and they're pushing their laws, and they're getting those laws passed. For
So
crying out loud.
you agree with the foundational stance already, though. The way to get your position, your status, what you want into power. You already agree with that. So the problem starts with that, don't you think?
No, the problem starts with the fact that, number one, we've allowed the government to nanny us up to this point, which has become beyond just intrusive. Now they're telling us literally. I mean, I got to say one thing though. They're only telling if you're a secular a non-religious person, they tell you what to do. If you're a Hasidic Jew, if you're a devout Muslim or a Catholic, you can beat the living shit out of your child, and the police won't dare to come through your front door, because God forbid if they're ever called a racist for it. So there are double standards in this society. If you're a law-abiding secular person, the social services will be up your ass in 5 seconds flat. But if you happen to be a Muslim, you can literally beat the crap out of your child, and the police won't touch you because they're too shit scared of you.
I don't agree with that, man. And Muslims don't really do that to
You
their
don't
children
agree?
anyway.
Do you want me to show you the footage of the mosques where the kids are being whipped? The undercover footage that was recorded of where mosques where the teacher is literally beating the child.
So yeah, but
Nobody
how many
cares.
cases
Nobody
can you
goes
show me?
near that.
How many institutions can you show me other than probably the one that you're mentioning?
No, it doesn't matter. I'm
Of
making a
course it
point
matters, because we're not
that there
talking
are
about isolated
hypocrisies within the
incidents right now, are we?
society with different types of people. You're a secular white English middle class woman, and you slap your child on the hand in a supermarket, and the social services will have you hang you by your neck. Whilst if you're a Muslim guy in beating the crap out of your child, the social service
Yo,
won't come
so
anywhere near you, because
Banksy,
God
so the
forbid they
solution.
tell you how to discipline your child if you want to
All right.
raise it in your own culture.
But
So
that's not how
Banksy,
the democratic system works, though. So
yo,
I
forget the
don't get where you're
Democrats.
getting this from.
No,
Hey, Banksy.
I'm
So the
pointing
solution is
out, first of all, the double standards. Second of all, as I said, the Jedi, someone like Jedi, actually is in the forefront of mobilizing, organizing people, and getting them to act, have action. And the best way to do that is to get your type of politician into office, mobilize your
Yeah,
No,
I
people,
don't.
that's
get the kind of
Honestly,
ridiculous.
I'm not.
politicians you
I
want
don't
into
believe in
the.
the
Burnout,
political
brother.
fucking
Well, if you don't
Innit?
believe
pantomime.
in the political system,
Yeah,
Burnout,
then you're already lost.
yeah. I think
what?
then
What?
that's
Nah,
just the
bro.
case,
Come on,
because
man.
I've
This
seen the
guy.
political system, and I feel like people have been voting for generations, and
What
I've
I'm
not seen
saying
it.
is,
And I've not seen anything that's led anybody any closer
how many
to
people of your background, of your
what's
interest
my
group,
background.
have you elected and put into
What's
parliament?
my
How many
background?
can you say?
What's my background?
Your
What's my
whatever
background,
agenda
Banksy?
you have, whatever
What
background you
agenda?
want, an
What are you on
Afro
about? What are you
Caribbean
talking about,
person,
man?
or a person who grew up
No
in
one, man.
the
No one
streets of
represents
London.
me better than me. I'm not one of these individuals that have been enamored with the whole politics fucking pantomime and is looking to vote somebody into power to change things from the inside.
Well,
I'm not sucked into that dream.
well,
So
that's
that's not
fine then.
me.
In that case,
But it's a
you'll never
dream.
make any changes, and you'll
It's
go
a
on
false
forever
dream,
bitching about how
man.
life is unfair.
I'm not preaching
Capitalism.
about. I'm not saying life is unfair. I just deal with realism. Yeah, and
Burnout
I feel like
capitalism.
if you want to get real, at 1 minute I thought you was actually getting chill with it, car. You sounded like you was calling for some form of revolution, and then you kind
No,
of just
I'm
pussied out and
no.
went and started
You
talking
can
about
say,
voting for
you can
someone.
go ahead. I mean,
Oh, bro,
my
but listen.
revolution is very
Yeah,
different
You're
to
looking
your
for another
revolution.
stuff.
manifesto.
That's
Listen,
what
brother.
works.
Listen,
His
bro.
revolution
Banksy,
doesn't
because
go past the
I'm in the
democratic
agreement.
system.
Banksy. I'm actually in agreement with you, yeah, and I agree with a lot of the points you've made today. So don't ever get it twisted. But what I'm saying is, yeah, we are now practicing insanity, the same actions again and again. Oh, let's vote.
Come on.
Let's vote and get our person into.
Yeah.
Listen, that shit ain't working, Banksy. We know it ain't working. Inherent in your gut, Banksy, you know you're never gonna be able to vote for somebody that's gonna change shit enough to make any real difference out here, because it's too
Real
late.
talk.
The whole system has been infiltrated. We know this. If we
So
don't know
what's
this,
your solution then, Jedi? Tear it all
I
down?
was trying to go down a
Yeah.
I was trying to
Yes.
Get
to
rid
be
of it.
honest, yes.
Yes.
Good,
I'm
blood.
on a
Get rid of it
revolutionary thing.
all.
That's
Jihad. Jihad.
Come
yeah.
on,
Yo,
man.
let me chime in real quick, just real quick.
No, I said jihad. You better chime in on jihad.
Oi, see, we're talking about the school system. Yeah, remember. Let's go back to that just for 1 second. The deepest thing about this claim that Theresa May is going to start bringing mental health, whatever, into schools is imagine that some of the mental health problems. Like, I'm interested in this thing called psychogeography. Yeah, so it's how your geography affects your psyche. Yeah, imagine just the mere fact that you're in a wherever you live is you live in a house with corners, and you basically live in a house that was created inside someone else's imagination, right? You go to school and you sit in a room that was created by someone else's imagination. Imagine that all of this stuff is affecting you in such a way that until you get away from it, you can't be fixed. So it's like you're on a what's that, like a gerbil on a treadmill or whatever you call it. Like it's a constant, and this is what this system is made up of. It's made up of loads of little booby traps like that just are perpetuated madness. And it's like we try to find all these different solutions, and none of them work because we're not dealing with the root cause. The root cause is the way the system's built from top to bottom. Yeah.
Capitalism.
We all agree that
Look,
there's something wrong with the system in it, but we just have a disagreement on how we
Capitalism.
deal with the situation. But yo, go on.
Schools, bro. Schools. Remember, this whole thing is about schools. Yeah. Well, it's not all about schools, but that's how the conversation started.
yeah, but the
So,
schools are rooted.
the idea that we
System.
can, the idea that we, again, you rebuild you can't rebuild the whole society. You have to build your own little villages, as Jedi was talking earlier on.
Can we build a whole
You have
society?
to be able to craft a reality that facilitates you as a parent being able to, number one, be in the schooling environment. A lot of parents homeschool their kids, you know, and they stay in their little. Like I live in and around Ladbroke Grove, and there's a lot of kids over the last 10 years that I know have been homeschooled. They've barely been to school. They've been to school a couple of years, whatever, but then they're homeschooled. And true say, the authorities probably don't know that they're being homeschooled, right? But people are choosing different options, right? And my option, if I had a child, I'd be seriously thinking about homeschooling my youth. But further than that, I'd think about the other options of finding other schools, because, you know, all these comprehensive schools is not the only options that you can have. You know what I mean? And I'm sure if this is happening, a lot of these Eton kids and whatever, they're probably already in therapy from the age of 4, right? They're probably already going through that stuff. Yeah.
Look, MA. The
Hold
way
on.
I see it, if you're talking about
Banksy. Hold on 1 second. All right, family. Let me just read out some of your comments. So right now, just type Titans TV if you want your comment read out, or the super chat. Again, we have the good brother Opus Dei that's putting in that work here and actually showing the love, right? It says here, the reverse reasoning is a good debate trick. They copy that behavior on Speaker's Corner. All right, let me just quickly go through to make sure that we have everybody represented.
What did he mean by that? I didn't get that.
I don't even know. I don't know. So we've got about 20 more minutes here left of the live on-air discussion, right? 20 minutes, because you know we don't like to go over the 2-hour mark. So please drop your comments. I see you, Afro Man. Drop your comments in there. Also, we're actually doing. Let me quickly see if I can get it up. Try to get it up before the Patreon. Okay, there you go. So what we're currently trying to do is raise funds. We're currently trying to get up to 250 to cover all of the costs, so we can produce excellent videos for you guys, to do some great research for you guys. All right, the 250 literally a month is going to be covering the videos, it's going to be covering the cost of the fiber optics, it's going to be covering the cost of the Adobes, for the Photoshop, for the Photoshop, for the Premiere Pros. It's going to be covering the email marketing and all those other good stuff there. We're just trying to raise that. So if any Patreons is available to donate $1, $5, or £5, £10, whatever you can donate on a monthly basis, just to get us up to that. And it's also going to cover our transport cost as well. And that's going to get us, you know, to Speaker's Corner, get us down there recording. It's going to get us recording other events and covering some news as well. So that's only £250 just to cover the overheads. That's just $250 less of me taking out on a monthly basis. I've been doing that for the last 5 years, give or take or so. So if you guys can really help out and do that, that would be absolutely awesome. All right. Just putting it out there for you guys. And let me quickly get back. We've got AS says that last guy had a valid point. Sorry, now that's gonna have a valid point. Homeschooling is a good way. Afroman Raf says hi. Sorry, let me just get all of the questions out there. You take out the rule by calling some exceptions. Secondly, so Opus Dei says, I think for the clarification, you take out the rule by calling some exceptions. Secondly, and he leaves it open. Johnny McDermott says homeschooling is the way to hinder hinder the nanny state control. All right. Savannah Saint says provide great content. Thank you. Can one donate to the GoFundMe? Yes, the GoFundMe is available at the bottom of the screen. I say bottom of the screen. Let me just quickly do this. Promotion is always key. Promotion. Okay, so roughly down here, it's got the GoFundMe. You've got the Patreon link to get us to the Patreon, the GoFundMe link to go to the GoFundMe or PayPal as well. So those are the different ways you can go to actually support Titans TV as well as the Super Chat. So again, I always have to shout out everybody who does support us because you guys literally keep us afloat and keep us going. Good night says Gavin. Says teach reasoning in schools so we can have fewer irrational people in society. Ooh, wait. I like that. I really do like that. All right, I'm gonna go back into the I support when I like the discussions. Says Opus Dei. you support on every topic then. On every topic. Love for you, man. How do I donate to the Rothschilds 5G? Plus Kalam is a very credible, knowledgeable person, so donate peeps. Is our food killing us and changing our kids? Debate. Ooh, you know what? That's going to be a conversation we're going to have on another day. I like that. AR23, just make sure you message me privately so we can, get some research on that and get people on to discuss that. Excellent topic. All right, sorry, let me bring it back now. I think it was Banksy that was going to take over. Go ahead, Banksy.
Thanks. Well, actually, just before I get into the conversation, I just want to say, Callum, if you guys produce any T-shirts with your logos and stuff, I am more than happy to participate in purchasing that because I do like your logo. But anyway, that's just like on a sideline. If you guys want to produce anything like that, that would be quite cool. But as far as the homeschooling side is concerned, although I think that I'm so dismayed with the current sort of public education that I'm even inclined to somewhat sort of condone homeschooling. The problem with homeschooling is you are stunting your child's social skills because they're not going to have that level of social skills. The other thing is, as the system, everybody keeps talking about how the system is a trap. How many parents do you know can afford to have one parent live at home and teach and be a full-time educator to their child and not have to work? Both parents don't have to work, and that's not even including the scores of single parents who there's no way they're going to be able to homeschool their kids. There is a huge amount of issues that we have with homeschooling.
Sorry, bro. I was just talking to my partner about that solutions. Yeah. Really, I mean, this will be aimed at the people I regard as my Black community in it. Really, what needs to happen is that the biggest problem is obviously that the 9-to-5 working structure does not fit around the schooling structure, does it? So that's how the nanny state is operating. There's never been any consideration to change the working hours. It's set in stone. Other countries are more flexible. Really and truly, it's a case of those people who have Black businesses and stuff should really put money into a pot to support the creation of schools, right? To the creation of schools, and in doing so, will have a say in how the school is run. One of the things that they could do is give is either change the working hours or give parents say 2 or 3 hours a week to actually be in school, in these schools that we've created, by the way, to be in school with the children themselves. Because really, it's again that disconnect between home, the disconnect between the home life and then the corporation that is the school, and then also the other corporation that is the workplace that you where you make your bread and butter. It's completely dysfunctional. So I would say for Black people, I would say yes. This is probably a good model to try and institute where. Small, medium-sized businesses, even people that don't have a business, just people just put into a pot and try to institute some, and it's, so it's in a sense, it's homeschooling, but in a social environment, right? So yeah, anyway, that's what me and my partner were just talking about just now. We're both teachers. That's something I'd like to see.
Well, Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, the cooperative thing is actually what a lot of people. There was a guy, a Scottish guy, I forgot his name, but he's got a pretty reasonable sized YouTube channel. Uh, Declan Black. No, I forgot his name. I'll find it. He has been advocating for cooperatives for the best part of 10 years now. He's been actually making videos about it. He's been discussing how people should buy allotments and have cooperative, even food growing in a cooperative allotment setup, in which you don't have to necessarily buy all your fruits and vegetables from the supermarkets with all the pesticides and GMOs and etc. etc. You can grow your own, at least some. Not, I'm not talking your entire food supply because that's just going to require far too much effort. But you could certainly grow a proportion of your fruits and vegetables in a cooperative allotment setup in which several people get together and do this. The problem is this system in which we are indoctrinated into. And the school system, by the way, is absolutely set up to indoctrinate you into this system. The system doesn't want you to be an independent entrepreneur. It wants you to be a good worker bee. That is what it
Conformer.
really wants. That's what school is teaching people. They don't
One,
teach you independence. This is why when someone put earlier on in text, oh, why don't they teach rational and independent thinking? Are you crazy? What, the schools want you to be rational and independent and logic?
they
No,
want you to
hell no, they
conform.
don't want
That's
you
why
to be that.
we were saying that in the beginning. They want you to conform. That's what we've been saying. Have we not been saying that?
No, I didn't say conform. I say
So it's the
find your
same thing, though.
politicians and put your type of politicians in power. I'm
No, that's
talking about what you can actually influence the system quite
you can't
heavily. If you
reform
look at the
capitalism.
feminists,
You
they've
can't
done that.
reform this system. Sorry, I won't even say capitalism. You can't reform this system because the system is already set up in a way where certain groups of people they answer to their. If you know about the money in politics thing, whenever they want to do elections now, they politicians get money donated from they get lobbyists or whatever. They get money donated to them from rich people, and they answer to their.
Now, Afroman,
They don't
Afroman,
answer
you're
to
right. You're right.
exactly. But
You're
you
right
can't
on
reform a broken system.
No, no, Afroman. You see, the problem is you guys, everybody looks you all look at the whole pie and you wonder why you can't fit that thing in your mouth. And you think this impossible. No one can eat this pie because I can't fit it all in my mouth. But nobody picks up a knife and starts dicing that pie up. And if you dice it up, those slices go down real
Yeah,
smooth.
we're
And that's the problem. You guys all look at the national level, like as if you can't set up someone who becomes a prime minister, that's it. You have no control over your life. You have no
why did
control
we
over your
do this?
destiny. You can control your own local councils. You can very easily put the people you want in your local councils and set up local communities, local cooperatives, and set up your local environment. Don't look at the whole pie and
That
wonder
doesn't
why you
sound
can't
like
put the whole
that
pie
doesn't
in your
sound like
mouth.
what we're talking about now. We're talking about a different type of system now where it doesn't involve any government and that we just have individual
No,
people that we vote for and
y-
then we can change those people as well because we are the ones that they answer to, right?
look, Afroman, we were just talking about homeschooling. Homeschooling is a small, tiny way of people invoking their will upon society. That's how you invoke your will upon society. You invoke it within the small corners of the world, the bubble you live in, and that starts ripples, and those ripples eventually cross the whole pond. You don't have to go to Westminster to
People have
invoke
tried.
your will upon the world in which you live in.
Okay,
I'd have
let me
to
give.
agree with you actually there. We know of, so in Queen's Park, which is a ward of, well, they share two, they're split between two wards, Westminster and Brent. Council. Yeah, they have their own local council. Basically, there was a moment in recent times where that was requested by, I can't remember what organization it was, but a guy I know was facilitating that. And now they have their own local council who were given a pot of money and can decide what to do with it essentially
Given a pot of money by who?
by the two boroughs that they're split into. So Brent and Westminster would have to give a portion of the money they usually use to administrate parts of the council to that particular ward.
And what do they do with this money, and who benefits from this money? Because
Well, I know, and I personally know people who are on that council, and they're not politicians. They're people. They live down the road. You understand what I'm saying? So, obviously, your community. The problem with London is that London is a what they call multicultural place. So it's very hard to curate a village with so many different ethnic backgrounds, religions, etc., political stances, and everyone be happy. It's very hard to do that.
The common goal is that we want to be able to make decisions for ourselves, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a common goal, right?
Yeah.
So why don't we just unify on that? Why are we talking about background being Pakistani religion?
Because it's a reality. It's not. You can't escape that. There's no way. There's no way in heaven, hell, or earth that you're going to escape that. People have differences. You can't.
I'll give you this example. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the Pan-African movement all come from different, what's it called, belief systems and backgrounds.
Yeah.
But they still unify under the word Pan-Africanism.
Yeah, no, but they don't unify, bro. That's the. I was raised in the AAPRP. Yeah, so I know. Like people, like just saying that you're a Pan-Africanist does not mean you're aligned with your brother sitting next to you or your sister sitting across from you. What I'm saying is the differences are real. Yeah, they exist. That's what makes politics so difficult to navigate, right? I'm not saying that me agreeing with Banksy isn't me advocating that for that. It's not me saying that is the solution, because I think because we live in London and it's a very hard thing to do to please everybody, right? That's why when I did mention the idea of as Banksy called it, a cooperative, yeah, of exactly what I said. That's why I mentioned the Black community, because I personally feel, I mean, I've seen attempts to create schools in Brent. My dad was part of that drive. I've seen attempts to create schools in different parts of London by the Black community. Some have been successful, some haven't. Some are not really schools; they're kind of training camps in some kind of way. But yeah, it's a much more manageable, and you see, I mean, if you go look in Neasden, you've got the Swaminarayan Center that's been there, that's been there since I was tiny, man. So it's been there for at least 25 years, probably more than that. Yeah. So you have small pockets of communities who have their own schools. Yeah, and it works. It simply works, right? And what I'm saying, but the problem with the political model that Banksy was talking about is that yes, you can have a council like Queen's Park Community Council, who are administrating certain aspects of the local community's amenities and all that kind of stuff, but they don't have any control over the corporations. Yeah, and most people are working for the corporations. So yeah, simply having picking your own politicians and all that kind of stuff is not enough, because the lobbyists will have their way at the end of the day. And if the corporations don't change, which they're not going to, yeah, you have to take it upon yourself to redefine what your work in practice, redefine the types of work that you're doing as a community. That's going to have to be a reality, actually, because to work in a corporate setting is not going to be possible unless the corporation you're working for is part of your community or has your best interests at heart, because no other corporation is going to. So it's got to be you and your community that decide to redraw how a corporation should act, right?
Look, Ma, yeah, I mean, first of all, yes, I agree with everything you said in regards to that. Again, people always go to, well, the corporations, they have money and lobbyists. Yes, there will always be people with money and power who will influence the politics of the day to suit them. That's how it's always been. But who are corporations? Who builds corporations? They're not demons or ogres that come from another universe. They're human beings. They are nevertheless, they come from us. They are people. And so if you feel that a corporation, yes, there are some corporations that are overwhelmingly large and they're incredibly it's just their strength and their size is overwhelming. Imagine trying to take down Google Imagine trying to take down Microsoft. It just seems like an impossible task, and I don't expect anyone to do that. I'm not expecting you guys to go after these size corporations, Exxon and Mobil. I'm talking about you encourage entrepreneurship within your community. But before you can encourage entrepreneurial aspirations, you have to instill a sense of independence and strength within an individual, a person who feels that it is a safe thing for them to not to suck at the teat of a corporation and to go out and produce something of their own. And
How
that
do you do that
takes
without
far more
money?
strength than people think.
Yeah, much respect, and that's exactly what we're saying. So we're not in disagreement there. That's that I understand. That's why you were really trying to push forward this idea of people being weak, etc., etc. I don't think you really articulated it very well, but I think that should what you just said. If it's not the essence of what you were trying to say, then it should be, because that's obvious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's why I just hate this weak attitude or weak conversation about victimhood, about how the world is just this monolith, this ogreish,
No, bro.
cartoon.
Sorry to cut you,
You
but
know how
I don't believe that anyone on this panel is saying that is saying anything different from you in that respect. I don't
yeah.
believe that for one
So
second.
Yeah, I mean, that's
what
unfortunately, I
we
think
have is
maybe
a
that's the
different
impression I got.
what we have
Go
a
ahead.
different what we have is a different analysis of a certain thing. So you've said how you don't think the corporations, the people who own corporations are bad people. They're humans like us. They just have a bad mindset and whatever, and that they can change themselves, and that
No,
we
no, 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 no. I'm not saying they're bad or good. I'm saying that they are human beings who
that's what I
went
said.
out and did something and achieved it. And that doesn't mean that because they did it, no one else can do it. Other people within your own community, there are plenty of smart and strong individuals who can achieve the same thing or at least something very close. So close so that you will be independent of all the obstacles that you think that the state will put in front of you. You can slowly claw your way out of the sort of nanny state. This is
That
my only thing is about pulling people away from the nanny state. As I said, I mean, you guys were talking about homeschooling. We're talking about cooperatives. We are. I think that there should be a cohesive plan amongst small communities to pull themselves further and further away of the independence that they have upon the state and
okay,
become more and more self-reliant. The
okay,
more self-reliant you are, the less power the state has over you in the sense of trying to influence you to do what they want you to do. If you're on the dole, if you're on housing benefit, the state has you by the balls. But
okay.
what
Can I ask a
happens when you're
question?
not on those things?
Yeah, okay. So this is where history is a great teacher with these type of things. We understand. We know the Black Panther Party, right? We know about them, right?
Sorry, bro. Speak up a little bit or go closer to the mic.
Oh,
Yeah.
so, yeah, you know about the Black Panther Party, right?
Yes, yes, in the United States, yes.
Yeah. So they had that type of ideology, self-reliant and organized amongst their people, right? If you know a little bit into it, 'cause I don't really go too deep anywhere, so I'm not going to pretend like I know too much about it. But when you go into what was going on, the government, the CIA, and all those groups of people, they found their type of thinking to be a threat to what they saw um, as the system that they were upholding. And so they infiltrate these systems and they take it down from within. And how do they do that? They either go cause conflict between people or they assassinate people. Hence why you have they don't really exist today. So when we're talking about organizing amongst ourselves, it's very, very possible. I'm not denying that at all. We might think I'm coming from a victim mentality, but from history, we can see that whenever we've tried this type of thing cannot work unless everyone together comes under the, and this is what I was saying earlier, if everyone just unifies under this idea of we don't want this government to do that, they can't go against what's it called, 7 other billion people on this planet. There's only a few of them. Even in the UK alone, if everyone in the UK alone goes against this one government, in the UK government and corporations and all that, who's like, what can they actually do? If
Okay.
everyone stops buying
Can
Nike,
I just ask a
what can they
question?
do?
Because we've talked about homeschooling. I mean, we were even talking about physical violence against children a few minutes ago. But going back to the topic at hand with regards to mental health, do you feel that because half of mental illness is developed by the age of 14, right? So we're talking about young people. Do you feel that this homeschooling will be beneficial in uh, identifying the issues with regards to those young people?
No, homeschooling is like a is an emergency tactic, in it. It's like people that pull their children out of school. You know, I used to tutor one boy who was homeschooled for 2 years. That's not the ideal scenario, in it, because yeah, it's true that yeah, you will be held back socially. Yeah, if you try and reintegrate then into a more social environment by the age of 15, 16, 17, you're gonna struggle. Yeah, so that's not the ideal scenario. Yeah, homeschooling is an option when all else fails, basically, and all else is failing in it for most people.
The thing is, MA, I will say this. I believe technology has changed a lot of the way we educate people. The traditional aspect of taking a child to a place where they sit with other children and there's the teacher at the front, and the teacher basically dictates what knowledge they have, and the child has to pretty much record that. That system of teaching, I think, should change, and the technology that we have at our disposal can change that way of teaching. I mean, ultimately, what we want is to have a well adjusted, intelligent, independent, well-informed individuals that grow up and go out into the world and contribute to society and
Bro,
create.
you said the evil word. You said well adjusted. You know that famous J. Krishnamurti quote, right?
Conform.
You know
Sorry,
the one?
which?
J. Krishnamurti. He says, "It's no measure of good health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." You know the one?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
you know
yes.
the one. You know the one.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, I'm saying what you're not raising psychopaths here. As long as you're raising a reasonable human being that recognizes that they should get along with other people and are not sociopathic in some form or fashion, I consider that a win. Whether whatever your standards of well-adjusted is, take that and bring up a child which has all the abilities, has all the tools. Oh, sorry, your mic. It has all the tools that they need to succeed in society and potentially even be a leader in society. Those are the things I'm talking about. And if you can do that, if you can achieve that, then you pass the baton on to the next generation and you get them to take the next step forward. But all I'm saying is the first step begins with you. You're the only one that can take that first step. And again, when you look at the whole world, I mean, like Afro, I was talking about 7 billion human beings. I'm not looking to influence 7 billion human beings. I'm looking to influence 100 people at best. If I can get 100 people together, I've done a lot. Look at this is why I was saying to Jedi. Look at what Jedi's done with the gang thing and the way he's brought people together. This man knows no matter whatever his faults may be, whatever you might think of him, and I don't have a massive high regards for Jedi, but what I can say is this man is capable of bringing people together and is capable of getting people to listen to what he has to say. And that in itself is a considerable achievement.
That's the point.
All
Once they
right.
see,
So, family, we reached the end of the show. Okay, we've gone over the 2 hour mark. I know you guys want to hear more. You want to get involved a little bit more. What I can say to you guys is this: you can get involved. You can listen in a bit more. You can literally either jump in onto the Hangouts or go and join everybody else over in Discord, right? If we've got somebody here who is part of the Discord, Family, can you please post the link inside of the comment section so everybody else can have the link if they haven't already downloaded Discord, and would love to actually meet you guys there to carry on the conversation. The Hangouts link has been posted, so if you want to come in at any time, please come in and speak with the panel members that are present right now. And I would love for our melanated goddess to close us out and give us any last advice when it comes to mental health and dealing with children.
Well, I listened very intently to the discussions that the brothers were building, and although I wanted to chime in, the conversation was so good. I just wanted to just sit back and listen. I wanted to commend a brother. I think his name is Matrix. Or that's what his avatar says on it. Sharing your story and being a man of color, coming out and letting the world know that you have been treated for mental illness and that it had not been a barrier for you. I wanted to personally thank you because it was very refreshing to hear from your perspective. I have a very close friend. She's like a sister. She also has bipolar disorder, and she was going to law school and being very productive and successful in her life. That people, especially in the Black community, mental health, any sort of diagnosis, it is so stigmatized and demonized that we immediately jump to the young person wasn't disciplined properly, the parent such and such, and instead of looking at a lot of the topics that were discussed, that this is not an isolated thing, that even if you homeschool your child is not growing up in a bubble, and this world that we live in impacts us. Whether we want to or not, it just impacts us. And some people are more resilient than others. So, saying that if someone becomes depressed, that's a form of weakness. I'm just saying that we as a people need to really shy away from that line of thinking that that person has some sort of weakness.
Right.
They that can be detrimental because that will make them not be less likely to even reach out for help because of the fear of rejection, fear of how the masses will perceive them. So, I do think that's why the Black man presents as very angry. Anger and aggression is really a mask for depression, insecurities, and feelings of inferiority. I just feel like if it was normalized, if going to therapy was as normal as a woman getting a mammogram and a man getting his prostate checked, or every 6 months you go to the dentist, what people will feel good just sitting down talking to someone about whatever it is. It could be something really deep, it could not be. But that's a culture shift, right? So parents, if you hear this, whatever the topic is that is so uncomfortable for you to talk to your child, I dare you to try to have that conversation. I dare you to try
But
to just open that door, because if they don't say anything that time, they will at least know that door is open. And there's so many kids, there's so many parents that think that their job is to work and go to work and clean up and do laundry and pay bills. And you be a child, that's only the tip of the iceberg of parenting. Um, I just Kalam, I encourage you to continue to have discussions like this. I think that our people need healing, and a lot of times the things that we focus on, those are the symptoms and not the causes of our problems.
100%. I agree with you. It's so wonderful to have such a diverse panel and those who are actually involved in the field, whether it's education or health, mental health itself. So, and thank you as well for all of the individuals that came on and expressed their own experience dealing with mental health and going through the different institutes as well. That was, you know, that is a very brave and powerful thing to do, to share your experience with others. And hopefully that will impact on them and influence them to be brave enough to take the next step and speak to somebody or get the help as well. So thank you everybody for being tuned in. You guys have been absolute stars. And hopefully tomorrow we will have, you know, a new show for you guys. And again, we are taking requests. So anything that you guys want to speak on, please, please, please drop me a little message or request, and I'll see what I can do. Also, whilst you guys are still here, please hit up the like button, okay? So everybody else can know that it was a great show. And, you know, you can, I want you guys not just to let this conversation stop here. I want you guys to carry on this discussion in your own personal spheres, whether it's with your family members, your partner, your parents, your siblings, or your children. Have these conversations. Then, of course, extend it out into your peer group. Go into the workplace and speak on these types of topics. Go out into your extended family and your extended community as well, and try to have these types of dialogues, okay? This is the type of things that will heal the nation. Conversations heal the nation. All right, family. Peace and love. I'll see you guys on the other side. Oh, man.